The history of change. Everything changes, but change itself. Heraclitus, over 2 million years ago. He was a Greek philosopher pre-Socrates, and even way back then they were contemplating what is change and what does it do to us. The foundations of change management in the United States grew out of behavioral psychology in the 1940s. From there, it was about 1990s when they finally started defining change management. And as the century turned, change management began to be formulated. Finally, now we're looking at refining change management. So in the next several slides, we'll be walking through all the contributors throughout the beginning to where we are today. We are all familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is said to be the catalyst for change management because one is always searching to fulfill those needs that are unfulfilled. The first model for change was developed by Lewin. It was very straightforward. First, you unfreeze the current situation, then you move, do something new, and then freeze it once again. Bridges' model explored transitions. Change is something that happens to people, even if they don't agree with it. It's external. Transition is internal. It's what happens in people's minds as they go through a change. Change happens quickly, while transition is slow over time. Prochaska created a biopsychosocial model to conceptualize the process of intentional behavior change. It starts with the preconception, a trigger that starts to make you think about it. Then you conceive the change. Finally, you prepare to make the change. Then there's the action that actually causes the change, and finally, maintaining or maintenance of the change. Kotter, a professor of organizational science and change management at Harvard University, is well known for being the father of change management. He came up with the original 8-step model that today is still being used as the gold standard for change. Sacred cows make the best burgers. Uses the concept of a sacred cow to represent the outmoded beliefs, assumptions, and practices, policies, and systems that inhibit change. It outlines a 5-step process to identify changes, develop change-ready environment, address resistance, motivate people to change, and create change-ready traits. So more than how to implement change management, it talks about the environment, what needs to be changed, and how you can make your organization ready for change. Since introducing his 8-step model, Kotter has continued to write books about change management and leadership. In 2002, he collaborated to write The Heart of Change, which looks at why people succeed and why they fail at large-scale change. They interviewed over 400 people in 130 companies to come up with consistent practices and principles that were used. This book was followed up with the Heart of Change Field Guide, which is full of tools, frameworks, and advice to guide you through the 8 steps of change that Kotter originally conceived. The ADKAR model takes a look at helping people through the change process. Its steps are awareness, desire, knowledge, abilities, and reinforcement. Within this is where a lot of the training concepts that come along with making change are very important. More recently, personal habits have been linked to organizational change and change management. 3 excellent books that tie changing habits to organizational change are Switch. Switch uses a framework that it actually based on the happiness hypothesis, metaphor, the rider and the elephant, with the rider being the head, the rational part, and the elephant being the heart, the emotional part. The authors, the Heath brothers, outline a 3-part framework to direct the rider, motivate the elephant, and create a path to change. In The Powers of Habits, Dungy looks at a keystone habit. This is the habit that has the power to create a chain reaction of changes. And finally, Atomic Habits, Clear draws on research-based ideas from biology, psychology, and neuroscience to create guides for making good habits, inevitable, and also the possibility of breaking habits. Looking beyond the process of change for change management, we have 3 more books that really start to build the things that you need to support that change. Immunity to Change addresses resistance to change, first asking the reader to assess their own critical thinking, social mind, self-authoring mind, and their self-transforming thinking to determine where are you as an individual, and then how can you look at your organization to go from that social mind, that self-authoring, to a more transformative thinking. In Mindset, the brain science focusing on fixed versus growth mindset is explored, and how this impacts your view of the world and how you shape the world. And in terms of change management, when you are creating a team, you want those who naturally seek improvements, development, opportunities. This will provide more space to focus on trying something new. Finally, Change Intelligence centers on the belief that a leader has one of 3 primary ways of thinking: head, cognitive, logical, big picture view; heart, making sure people are on board, are good with the focus and the planned activities; and hands, the effective details and process of the activities. So a leader does not always focus on one of these all the time. There is a mixed focus. But what you want to identify in your change team is that you have that change intelligence, that you bring a balanced view to your implementation plan. The ABCs of Change is an interactive model which takes into account the speed, volatility, complexity, ambiguity, uncertainty, and diversity in our world today. The model uses a big picture perspective, considering the head, the heart, and the hand, as well as the environment, to practice a holistic approach to change. As you can see, it's very interactive and agile. Each time you get to a certain step in the model, you may need to go back and readdress and make changes, make adjustments. This is how life is. This is how change works. And so this interactive model takes into account many, if not all, of the models, philosophies, and ideas that have come since the beginning of our change management history. Everything changes, but change itself. And undoubtedly, the history of change management will continue to move forward because we will continue to see changes. Hopefully, you've found some resources in this presentation that you can take with you as you embark on your career and deal with change initiatives and maybe even become a change agent yourself.